I was assigned as Neil's community psychiatric nurse 3 years ago. He had served a 6-year prison sentence for assaulting a police officer. They had come to arrest a drug dealer in the flat below, and Neil was convinced they were coming for him. He did have a record: aggravated burglary, a hostage situation with a family member, arson, a history of drink and drug abuse that had not helped with the paranoid schizophrenia he was eventually diagnosed with. In prison, he'd replaced one addiction with another. Some Iraqi inmates had told him that in heaven he would not suffer the stigma of mental health, and with both 9/11 and 7/7 happening while he was inside, Neil latched onto this. He converted to Islam, and cases were documented of him showing extremist material to prison officers and counsellors. Outside, he classed himself as a dirty Muslim, back to drink and cannabis, skunk in fact. His medication caused him to dribble into his beard. The local mosque didn't welcome him, and he felt increasingly isolated. He told me straight off that he wanted to be a martyr. He had plans for a suicide bomb at the football stadium, but not while his mother was alive. He didn't want to upset her, but do it when she died. In fact, he said that the grief he'd feel when she died would make it easier. I also knew he'd started carrying a knife, even sleeping with it, in case the police came for him again. Naturally, I had real concerns. His paranoid delusional behaviour was a danger to his and other people's safety. He was sectioned for 28 days. In that time, I brought his case to a multi-agency panel of local representatives and shared with them everything I knew. And the response on his release was fantastic. To see whether his ideology was a concern, he was offered assistance to attend the local mosques out of hours and talk to imams. The local head of mental health saw problems occurring when Neil was self-medicating, so he was transferred to a depot injection every 2 weeks, and he instantly became more stable as a result. We didn't feel his flat was the best place for Neil. Some warden-controlled housing nearby offered a safer environment, and Neil agreed with housing officers to be moved. A concierge, an electric key fob, a community of his own, closer to the shops, the new accommodation was another win. The local authority were in a position to take charge of his money, allocating him an allowance which Neil would have to travel to collect from the civic centre himself. £6 a day, enough to treat himself, but not enough for his brother to take from him or the local dealers to bother him. Then Neil's stepfather passed away, and he was very vocal about wanting to see his mother as much as he could. With someone from the outreach team, we identified the bus route, organised his pass, and they travelled with him on the first couple of times of the journey. Neil's relationship with his mother completely rekindled and became very important to him. Then a woman in Neil's block had kittens. Really, she had a cat and it had a litter. She offered a kitten to Neil, making him aware of the responsibility if he said yes, which he did. And that cat, Starbuck he called her, became the love of his life. He stopped drinking. He said he had to look after her properly, feeding her, exercising her. With the changes in place and the cat and his mum, his life really turned a corner. For 11 years he was categorised as Tier 4 by the Forensic Services team, but now he's been taken off that tier. And there's been no trouble since. No arrests, no concerns, no deterioration in his health. All the solutions for Neil were mainstream interventions. We just needed to recognise he needed them.